Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught! Jelani Woods! Touchdown! INDY! A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! And Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody, welcome in. Appreciate you being with us. It's Thursday, September 4th, coming to you, of course, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, high atop the 18th fairway here, powered by our good friends at Andy Moore Honda. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com to get more to your door. And, of course, the family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington and Bedford area of the Wow Food Group. Great places like Chop Shop, Hoosier Hank's Pizza, where you can get tacos, the Mackenzie Mac Bowl, and pizzas. Hoosier Hank, a big bring back the bison, baby. There it is. Appreciate everybody joining us. Kent jumping on early from Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Fred from Easton, Pennsylvania. Larry out in Vegas. Mike, appreciate everybody from all over, no matter how you're listening. Our friends on ESPN 97.7 The Ref, always the right call in Evansville. Up in the region in Chicago on 12:30 a.m., 104.7 WJOB, the voice of the region. The Fan in Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380. Great sports town. And make sure you stay tuned after today's show for Brett Rump if you're listening in Fort Wayne. They've always got tickets to 10 Caps. Is the 10 Caps in the playoffs, man? Congratulations to them, by the way. Plenty to talk about. The Jaden Mustaf decision coming today. That'll be happening. A piece came out yesterday from Rob Cassidy of Rivals, specifically talking about Indiana's recruiting. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. Of course, Indiana, Louisville, tangling on the gridiron in a couple of days on Saturday. Is that 10-point spread right now is what that's set out. See if that stays the same. I know Hoosier fans think differently, but it seems a little high, but we'll find out. Indiana or Louisville has a little advantage in the fact that their quarterback is he's a veteran, I guess you'd say. Speaking of our guest today, thanks a lot. Man, it is a loaded show today, John Boy. Who all do we have on board?
We got Dustin Schutte, who should be with us shortly. We'll be visited by Matt Taylor, Bob Kravitz, Chris Denari, and Dylan Sinn.
Man, a busy day. As always, we try to keep you informed and entertained in all regards. Matt Taylor joining us, of course, from the Colts. Bob has a piece on Anthony Richardson's journey as being the starter there. Man, that's going to be – but think back when Peyton Manning's first season. They were, 4-14 or something like that? 3-13, I don't know. It wasn't fun. It was brutal. We'll hopefully hear from Jeff Brom if maybe. John, right? Maybe on that.
Yeah, we'll keep that at a maybe.
I
am unfortunately trying to relog into some stuff. So that's the fun thing about computers sometimes. They log you out of everything.
Gritty asking a good question that I was talking about last night. I was at the Tom Allen Inside Indiana Football with Tom Allen and Don Fisher at Chop Shop. What kind of crowd will IU football have this weekend? If it were in Bloomington, she would have gone, but she's not paying extra for an additional ticket or traveling further. Well, it's not an extra ticket. It's a quasi home road game. So that's kind of how you have to look at it. But some people live further away. This is, and if you were coming from Evansville, yeah, it's further away. If you live in Fort Wayne, it's saving some people some mileage. So maybe there'll be people that are able to attend that normally don't go to games, and just like there'll be some people that normally go that may not be going. Jamie, how are you doing? We appreciate you jumping on from Grand Rapids. Eagles and Vikings tonight, Philip. That's right. I mean, is that not just an Eagles pick? I would have thought, but what's the spread on that stupid game? It was closer than I anticipated it being. Yeah, the Eagles they're only giving up 6.5 points at home. Or the Vikings surprisingly better than I thought. I mean, the Eagles had a good start that week, but I thought. But it's pro sports, man. They don't have to always be good, but they can always rear up when you're least expecting them to. Tanis says he's gonna miss Rick and Chris because of work. Well, that's okay, because you can always go back and listen on YouTube. For those of you listening on radio, of course, you can always find us on YouTube at Indiana Sports Beat Radio is the easiest way to take you right there. Different segments. Rick will be there, and Chris as well. So you can always go back and pick up what you missed. That's the great thing about the show being on YouTube after radio as well. So, but yeah, I know a lot of IU basketball fans are intrigued about the Mustaf decision. I am too, because not a lot of chatter about Indiana out of his camp, but they're not out of this. I mean, they're in the thick of so many races. Yesterday, Rob Cassidy of Rivals.com, national recruiting director, was talking about Indiana specifically. He said is hoping for good news in the near future, as it recently hosted top target Liam McNeely for a second official visit, which is big. Mike Woodson and company have long been in the thick of the race to land the 5-star forward, and Texas-based Star's most recent trip to Bloomington was an opportunity to seal the deal. The Hoosiers are also involved with McNeely's high school teammate, Derek Queen, of course, who visited over the weekend. Then there's the quickly strengthening bond between the program and 5-star Boogie Fland, who has already been on campus and hosted for the IU staff for an in-home visit this past Tuesday night. Then you've got names such as Jaden Mustaf, Asa Newell, Patrick Mgaba II, and Rakis Passmore are also linked to IU to different extents. I mentioned Mustaf making his decision today. Indiana obviously won't be totally shut out of this cycle, but it feels like IU needs to land a couple of these aforementioned names to feel genuinely positive about its class. Absolutely. This cycle could be a massive boost for the program on the rise. It could also be one that will be remembered for big swings and misses if things break in the wrong direction. Now, that kind of reminds me of back in the Archie Miller days, but he never had a shot to land anybody. Indiana is in the hunt with all of these guys. Speaking of in the hunt, look who I just found. Look what I just bagged. Look what I just bagged. Look what I just bagged. Local decided to show up to work today.
I have to be honest, Jim. I forgot what day it was when I woke up this morning. So my apologies. And so I've been running behind a little bit all day. So I got my priorities mixed up.
Soda Pop Shooty in the house. Per Gritty. Bob joining us from Georgetown. Appreciate you, brother. My old haunt. I grew up right next door to the Georgetown, the old Georgetown High School, which is now an elementary school. But I was there. Caleb says that On 3 has Georgia Tech as a favorite from Mustaf, and he is from the Atlanta area, but Indiana has had a ton of success and has 2 current recruits, Caleb Banks and got it. You'll pull the other name out for me, but that's from that area. So, and Georgia Tech, man, they don't have much going on right now, in my opinion.
No.
So that would Ja'Kai Newton. Thank you, Ross. Appreciate that. Ja'Kai Newton and Caleb Banks, both from that area. So I'm sure that they have been in his ear when, at least on recruiting visits. But like I said, I haven't heard a lot of chatter, but I don't. It doesn't ever matter. It doesn't. What I hear and don't hear almost matters the same anymore. Because what you hear, you're like, yeah, but is that correct? I mean, unless it comes from the horse's mouth. Recruiting's it's a wild and wacky thing, man. As Johnny would say. But what's new with the Shooty man, Soda Pop?
Oh man, not much. The Braves clinched the NL East last night, so that was big.
Nobody
celebrating.
Cares. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. You have some listeners that care. I know. They reached out to me on Twitter.
I'm kidding. Whenever I say that stuff, I hope everybody knows I'm kidding.
Oh, I know.
I'm being facetious. FACETIOUS.
We got week 3 college football coming up. I'm excited about that. Indiana Louisville seems like a really fun game. I know Louisville's favored by what? What's the line? 10?
10. It's a 10-point game. Which I'm struggling with. I haven't seen enough of Indiana to give them enough credit because they haven't played the same damn quarterback. And that quarterback has taken half the snaps of what he could have.
Right. And not only that, I mean, you talk about a different ends of the spectrum in terms of opponent. Indiana went from playing one of the best teams in the country, a bad FCS team. So they really haven't had a middle ground where they played like a Rutgers or a Maryland or a Illinois or Purdue. They haven't had that opponent yet. So it's hard to judge because I feel like Louisville is going to fit in that kind of category where they're kind of middle of the road. And I don't know. I think Indiana's defense is going to give this offense some fits. And I know Jeff Brom's a great play caller. I know he's an offensive guru. But I like what I've seen from Indiana defensively so far.
They do. They have to. They're going to have to get to their quarterback because Jake Plummer while he's a veteran, hasn't looked great so far. Right. He's looked okay, and if you can get to him and pressure him, that's probably going to shake things up for Louisville and make things a little more difficult, and would be a gigantic key. Indiana's secondary also has to do their job this week. I'm not that concerned about Indiana's defensive front, their linebackers. They're going to have to get out and cover these running backs in the flats because Jeff Brom, like you said, offensive genius, but he's been really spreading his offense out. He's been getting the ball to the receivers. So that's going to be a telltale sign. And then I don't think Indiana's offense should have trouble against Louisville's defense. That should be a 50-50 affair there. That's going to come down to play calling. It's going to come down to making the plays, catching the ball,
Right.
throwing the ball, catching the ball, and running the ball. It's just going to come down. I know that sounds stupid and simple, but it's the truth. It's going to come down to doing your assignments and not making mistakes. Whoever doesn't make the mistakes or turn the ball over, that's going to be a big key to this game because we've seen so many mistakes in Indiana special teams last week. 6 out of 7 penalties were on freaking special teams. You can't have that.
Not only that, but I think that if you are Indiana and Walt Bell, score as many points as you can. But at the same time, I think if you can put together long drives and keep Louisville's offense on the sideline, then that's going to be a huge advantage. So even if you don't get points, if you're able to put together a 40-yard drive that takes 5-6 minutes off the clock, Louisville's offense on the sideline, that's a huge win for Indiana. So they just have to don't turn the football over, sustain longer drives. Obviously, you're going to have to put points on the board. But I think if Indiana can get this game and it's like a 24-20 type of game, I think Indiana has a real shot to win. I know that Louisville's the sexier team because they have better offense, because they got Jeff Brom and they score that. But I do think that Indiana's defense is going to be up to the challenge. It's a matter of you can't send your defense out there. You can't have a bunch of 3-and-outs in this game. You have to be able to move the football. As you said, Jim, you can't turn it over. And if you take care of the ball and you put together long drives, even if you're not scoring on all of those drives, it's gonna be a good game.
Tonight, the Vikings and the Eagles go at it in Philly, but Philly has 3 key players: running back Kenneth Gainwell, cornerback James Bradbury, and safety Reed Blankenship out for the opener against the Vikings. So I was wondering why. I'm like, Philly's only a 6.5-point favorite at home, but we've got a lot more to talk about. Matt Taylor joins us up next, I believe. Is that right, John?
Yes.
Thank you. So up next on the program, Matt Taylor joins us. Appreciate you being with us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and we're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
Sorry, I know that was a blunt answer, but I was trying to pull up 2 different things.
I'm just laughing. I'm just laughing. It's funny. I took it as funny. Don't worry. I didn't. Hey, Janice. TTG. Oh, it just doesn't. You got to come up with something.
Tackle that guy.
How about TTMF?
I gotta say though, I know the LEO thing bothers people, and I get why. But whenever things were going well, people loved it. It's just one of those things that's gonna bother people if it does. If you're losing.
No, here's the thing. Here's my take on it. And I'm glad we're not on the air, but I know people are listening on YouTube. But I'm not saying anything bad. It's the thing I found a little, I'll be honest with you, a little goofy is the words. A word for this week.
Oh, yeah.
A word for this. That's fine. Keep that within the program. Keep that within the program. That sounds a little hokey to me. And I'm not saying it is. If it works, great. But I don't know the guys are focusing on a word when they're out there practicing. They damn well better be focused on their assignments and learning what they're doing, not what that word is. That word could be Matt Taylor for all I care. Oh, I'm sorry. Matt's there. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that.
You got us, Matt?
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, all right.
You need to put up a coach something for your avatar.
An avatar? What's an avatar?
Well, do you ever see the screen, the YouTube screen?
No.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take a picture of it right now and I'll text it to you. Dun 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 it. Dun 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 it. Dun 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 it. Texting Matt Taylor. Dun, 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 dun.
All right, here we go, guys.
Rest of 2023 for just $299. That's right. Play as many rounds as you like for just $299. That's better than a birdie. But you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. Appreciate you being with us. Of course, brought to you by Chop Shop Market and Table, where you can find your butcher, baker, deli, cafe, chop house, seafood that is overnighted every day as well. And a full market on one side and a steakhouse on the other. Matt, you would just go nuts in it as Matt Taylor from the Colts joins us.
What's up, boys? Yeah, I have a rule. If it swims, I don't eat it, but I'm sure it's really, really good. I don't do seafood.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah, I bet it's
I
really
get-
good. I bet it's really, really good. I just don't do seafood. It's a texture and smell issue for me.
All seafood? I mean, I know a
All.
lot of people are allergic to shellfish and things like that, but
Yeah, no, I'm just allergic to the taste of it, I guess. If it's in water, if it comes from the sea, it is not going in my belly.
wow.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm very much a carnivore.
Well, luckily for you, they have got the best in ribeyes and fillets and pork chops. It's just it's incredible.
Yeah,
it's good. Good
now you're
stuff.
talking Matt's language.
Your dad's been in there before, I believe. Or maybe
buddy.
he hasn't. But how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, man. How are you guys doing?
Cannot complain. We've got an NFL game tonight with the Vikings and Philly. And I was just talking that I was a little surprised that Philly is only a 6.5 point favorite at home, but that's because they have 3 guys out tonight. Important guys with running back, a quarterback, and a safety. So I'm sure that impacts them a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt. And we're getting to that time of year where I tell you what, it seems like it takes forever for football to get back, right? You got training camp, and then you got preseason games, and then we have like this little processes along the way where we think we're back, and then we're not truly back until Labor Day, right? And then you got the roster decisions, and then week 1 hits. And then once you start playing games, like it's just like this onslaught of football that doesn't stop, right? Then you got Monday night, then you got Thursday night, and then you got a full slate on Sunday night. So it's like it's this avalanche, and here we are. We finally made it, and now we have to be careful what we wish for because football's going to be here nonstop, seemingly 24/7 until February with the Super Bowl. But that's what we love is to kind of like this rinse, wash and repeat cycle of, The previous week is over Monday night. You put that game to bed. Certainly an eventful game with the Rodgers situation on Monday, and then week 2 is already here on Thursday night.
Yes, and last week Anthony Richardson had his breakout debut. I wouldn't exactly can't call it a breakout, but it was he managed to get through it and look good for most of it, actually. And it's kind of hard. That first game has got to be for a rookie quarterback. I mean, that's got to be like swimming out with a bunch of nurse sharks. And I say nurse sharks because they're usually not going to attack you, but you're going to be nervous if you're swimming in a pool of sharks regardless. And I'm sure that's kind of how it was, but he for the most part, he looked good.
No, he did. I mean, he completed 65% of his passes. He had a rushing touchdown. He had a throwing score. What you're trying to avoid is just those lulls, those inconsistencies. And to your point, I mean, it's his first start. It's the first time he's ever been out there in a live NFL regular season game, right? Gone is training camp, gone are preseason games. He's not wearing the red jersey anymore. But unfortunately, what happened to the Colts is they tied the game on the first drive of the third quarter. But then after that, they went on a little bit of a valley, or went down a valley, I should say, right? They went their next 5 possessions did not result in any points. They did not result in any first downs. Those 5 possessions only amassed 16 plays, and they didn't score another offensive point the rest of the game after they scored a touchdown on that Michael Pittman Jr. Screen. And again, that was the first drive of the third quarter. So, you're trying to find, some more consistency. The Jaguars did a nice job playing defense. They kept things in front of them. They played primarily a zone coverage scheme, a couple of safeties back deep to prevent the big plays from Anthony Richardson. Obviously, the running game didn't hold up their end of the bargain for the Colts. Anthony Richardson had 40 yards rushing. He was their leading rusher. Colts running backs combined for 16 carries and 25 yards. That's obviously just not going to get the job done when you're rushing for well under 2 yards per carry. You got to be much better on third and fourth down. On those money downs combined, the Colts were 3 for 17, and that's under 20%. That's not going to get the job done either. And on half of the Colts' 12 third down conversions, 6 of them were 3rd and 8 or longer. So got to be better up front. You got to be better on first and second down, and you just need to find some more consistency to find some bigger plays within the offense. Again, Jacksonville did a good job defending the Colts, taking away the big plays. But when Anthony Richardson did test the middle of the field, if you will, like pushing the ball down the field, that's where the inaccuracies came. But listen, for his first game, I thought it was very impressive. And the fact that the Colts were in the game, and quite frankly, you could argue could have won the game, should have won the game. They're up 21-17 with about 10 minutes to go. They punt. They had that back-breaking return allowed by Jamal Agnew. I fully believe that if the Colts cover that punt and get him down inside the 10-yard line, which would have been the case, I think the Colts go on and win that game. But that punt return changed everything. And so the Colts go from leading 21-17 in the fourth quarter to down 31-21 in the blink of an eye. I mean, the Jaguars scored 2 touchdowns in the span of 1 minute and 6 seconds of NFL football time in the fourth quarter. So, you come away from that game thinking, you're encouraged, but also disappointed at the same time, which those two things, rarely intersect in sports. But considering it was the first game for Shane Steichen, the first game for Anthony Richardson, and you're playing maybe one of the best teams in the AFC, certainly maybe the best team in the AFC South, I think you come away from that game feeling good, but also disappointed at the same time.
Justin?
Matt, what were your impressions? What were your impressions of the? Because when I look at that game and you look at the statistically from the run perspective, obviously they're not getting it done up front in the run block, but Pro Football Focus has ranked the Colts from week 1 as one of the top 10 offensive lines in terms of pressures allowed from that game. And I think that's probably the more important statistic. You want to keep Anthony Richardson, the face of your upright. You want to keep him healthy. And so it just seems like maybe there's some growing pains there. Maybe they're better in pass block, run block. What did you see from the offensive line? I know that was a big issue for the Colts last season.
Yeah, no, that's right, and I think that's fair. I mean, it's a vast improvement, and it's only one game, so it's a small sample size.
Right.
But considering what happened last year, and we've talked about this ad nauseum. I mean, when you go 4-12-1 last year, if you really want to boil down the season to 30 seconds, it's what happened to the offensive line. The offensive line giving up 60 sacks and not being able to account for free blitzers and rushers. That was a problem all season long. That wasn't a problem in this game on Sunday. So they have fixed it again in a short sample size, but consistency is the name of the game there. I was just disappointed that the running game wasn't more fruitful for the Colts in this game. Deion Jackson obviously had a very forgettable game. I mean, he was less than 2 yards per carry. He had those 2 lost fumbles. I just didn't think the running game. I mean, certainly I didn't think it was going to be as good as it would have been with Jonathan Taylor, and they didn't have Zach Moss on Sunday either, still dealing with a broken arm. But I just thought it would be better, and so disappointing there. I think even more disappointing is a couple of times the Colts had fourth and inches, and they came up empty. And when you've got a quarterback like Anthony Richardson, who's built the way he is, I mean, 6'4", 6'5", 255, 260, to come away, stalemated on that play, on fourth and inches, that was disappointing to see. So, I don't think it's going to change Shane Steichen's philosophy. I don't think it's going to change his approach on fourth down, but that's something they've got to get cleaned up. Again, situational football was just really lacking for the Colts in this first game. But fourth down opportunities when it's fourth and short and you've got bigger bodies than they do and still come away empty. That was hard to see. But, it's also, too, if you point to the offensive line, again, it's a short sample size. But, generally speaking, the Colts were trying to attack that Jaguar front in the running game in a similar way that they did last year. And it just didn't work, right? A lot of zone blocking. There wasn't a lot of gap control. There wasn't just a general push up front by the offensive line. That's something I'm going to be waiting to see coming up this weekend, week 2 on Sunday against the Texans. Is are the Colts going to be more creative and versatile and a little bit more, I just used the word creative again in their run blocking scheme, because last year the Colts got a steady dose of that double sync defense, right? When the defensive tackles pinch in, some people call it the bear defense. The Colts last year just never were able to figure that out. And it was kind of like they were just banging their head against the wall. And I want to see some different approaches to block that up, some different runs called, some different ways to block those runs. I think that's going to be kind of an underlying storyline going into this game, because it's a copycat league. Like I said, it happened to the Colts all last year, and I wouldn't be shocked at all to see the Texans kind of duplicate that again on Sunday against the Colts. DeMeco Ryans a really good defensive coordinator. He's going to, just see what works, and until the Colts, prove that they can run the ball effectively against that type of front in a different way, you're going to continue to see it. And, I would definitely think that's going to be part of the game plan for Houston this weekend.
Well, and Vegas has set this game as almost I guess less than a coin flip, because the Colts are a 1-point road dog. So anything less than 3 points, man, they're not confident in Houston.
Well, I mean, listen, it's when both of these teams, kind of stand up, it's like looking at each other in the mirror with, rookie head coaches, rookie quarterbacks, some new coordinators. And you've got, some fresh faces in the draft, fresh faces in free agency. Both teams last week struggled to run the ball. I don't think either team had a running back last week that went over 40 yards rushing. Both teams on defense struggled in the red zone. Both teams struggled in situational football, like I said. So, the Texans are going through some growing pains, just like the Colts. And that's why I think this is a really big game for both teams, because, yeah, it's a division game, but it's early in the season. And what you don't want to do is go down 0-2. And I'm kind of a stat dork. And the numbers are, when you start an 0-2 season in the NFL, Since 1990, 0-2 teams go on to make the playoffs less than 12% of the time. So it's not a debilitating, start. It has been done before. It certainly is not impossible. But what you don't want to do is go 0-2, and you don't want to go 0-2 inside the AFC South, because the easiest way to make the playoffs is to win your division. And the Colts have really struggled in the AFC South here as of late. I think they're 1-6-1 dating back to 2021 against the division. Obviously, last Sunday's game was a setback in the AFC South. And if they lose coming up this weekend, which knock on wood, that doesn't happen, but if they lose to the Texans this weekend, that'll be 4 straight losses for the Colts in the AFC South, which will tie their longest losing streak in the division since it was formed in 2002. So that kind of speaks to two things. I mean, obviously they've had struggles here lately, but also I think the bigger thing is they've just dominated this division in years past, but that's not the case. Since Andrew Luck retired, the AFC South has been kind of a hot mess for the Colts to navigate, and they're trying to get back to their winning ways. I think this is a really big game. Even though it's week 2, it's still very much early in the season. I think this is a monster game for the Colts.
Absolutely. And I look around the league, other games. Pittsburgh is at home, and they are a 2-point underdog at home to Cleveland. When has that ever happened?
Yeah. I mean, that's another, you talk about division game right there. I mean, it might be time to listen. It's early, but it might be time to thinking about, Deshaun Watson playing at the level in which he did in 2021. I mean, they beat the out of the Cincinnati Bengals and took everybody by surprise with that last Sunday. Listen, this is the NFL. I know I'm going to get, I'm going to get very redundant here, but like this league, like the margin for error in this league, it is razor thin. And I say it all the time. Your team and my team are pretty much constructed the exact same way outside of like 10 guys, right? The NFL, I mean, look at it, look at the game on Sunday against the Colts, the Jaguars. I think they've got a good roster, but what separates them from the Colts are their top players, right? Their top players are Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, and Evan Ingram, right? And I just mentioned all of their skill players on offense. Those are their best players. Well, what do their best players do? They made plays. In the fourth quarter, Etienne with a touchdown. Lawrence completed 75% of his passes. Zay Jones had a ridiculous catch in the end zone. So I know it's hyperbole, but are my best players better than your best players? And unfortunately, the Jaguars' best players kind of trumped the Colts in this last game in week number 1. And like, again, the parity in the NFL, like that's why the league is so popular. And I think partly, I mean, certainly fantasy football and gambling and all that. But I mean, there's so much parity in this league, and every fan base has hope going into the season because, every year you've got the draft, you've got free agency, and you can tweak your roster to compete right away. And it happens every year.
Yeah, there. You said something a long time ago to me that I've just not forgotten, that 4 new teams make the playoffs in the NFL every year. And as I was looking over, and it doesn't matter if you're betting or not, but I'm looking over all the spreads. I'm sitting here just shocked at the amount of home dogs this week. And I'm like, wow, are you kidding me? Yeah. New England is a freaking home dog? Or what the hell's going on? I'm like, this is the NFL. That's not like that in college, man. No. So it's the parity is there, and it's awesome. Matt, what's coming up next for you, brother? Obviously the game.
Yeah, just getting ready. I mean, we got tons of weekly content every single day, every single week. So check us out on our podcast channels. Just search Colts on, wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on YouTube, Colts.com. You can check us out. So podcast, radio shows, and then getting ready for the game. So, like I said, it's Groundhog's Week, man. It's rinse, wash, repeat. And we're here every Sunday, every week for, the next 16, 17 weeks.
We appreciate you, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Be good. See you, Dustin.
Matt Taylor, the Indianapolis Colts, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Brought to you by Chop Shop Market and Table, Deli, Bakery, and Steakhouse. They've got everything you need. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. All right, Kravitz is up next, and he said he'll be a little bit late, but he apologizes.
Obviously. The Bengals are a rare home favorite at -3.5 against the freaking Ravens.
Why is that rare? The Bengals are good. They've been to the AFC Championship.
No, I meant not the Bengals being rare right now, but this
you mean against the Ravens? Oh.
No, this week. I'm like, Philadelphia, okay, they're a home favorite. Jacksonville, not. Buffalo is. Detroit is. Think about that. Detroit's a home favorite. Cincinnati is. Tampa Bay.
They're the favorite to win their division.
Wait a minute. Tampa Bay is favored over the Bears. Really?
Bears got their ass whooped by the Packers.
I was going to say, have you seen the Bears? They are not good.
Yeah, but it's Tampa Bay without Tom Brady. How good can they be?
Who is their quarterback now?
I don't know.
Isn't it Baker?
Tennessee is at home. They're a home dog against the LA Chargers, who got the crap kicked out of them. Atlanta is at home. They're a home dog to Green Bay.
Yeah.
Houston is a home dog to Indianapolis.
That's kind of surprising.
The Rams are a home dog.
By the way, I'm going to get this out of the way. I know you'll want to go along with Bob, especially because we're late, but you still need to hit that break at 9:30. Just ask if he wants to stay.
Who's up at 9:30?
Nobody. Not Chris Denari's at 9:50 and Dylan Sinn's at 10:10.
Oh, shit, dude.
Yeah, so you're free to take Bob a second segment if he's able to, but you got to hit that break at 9:30.
Gotta hit that break. That sounds like
that was close enough. The Black Eyed Peas.
Yep. That's who I'm talking about, man. Gotta hit that break.
I always think about people who are just now joining us when they hear us saying silly stuff like that.
But see, that's what happens. I'm not using that. Normally I use I've got the Chad Powers cup going.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of my Yeti that Pete sent me at the moment, that's non-spill, that has saved me more than once. But I noticed I'm only drinking like half of it. And I'm like, all right. So today that first one went down so fast, and I'm like, All right, here we go, guys. Bob, I assume we'll be here shortly. He said that's all right.
So
we'll make him go long.
Our total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of Wow Food Group. This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you high atop the 18th fairway of the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this beautiful Thursday. Man, I went out yesterday finally. I've been in this chair for like 8-9 hours a day. For the past week, it seems like, just can't get going or get out of it to stop working. But look at Mr. Speaking of the gambler book I'm reading, Phil Mickelson. Look, he just showed up. What's up,
Bill,
Lefty?
Yeah, I'll put $50 on this interview. That's going to be no good. So you want to hear about my morning? I have to tell you about my morning. I wake up about, a half hour ago, because I know I had to do the show today. And I look outside, and there's a water pipe burst in my driveway. It's gushing water. I got water all over my driveway. I mean, like a foot deep. I got water I've got water in the street. My driveway is completely ruined. So I've been calling the city, and the city's going to come out and fix the damn thing. That's why I was late, because I was on hold with city employees.
Do you know how lucky you are that this is not January?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
I remember I was living down actually in Louisville at one time, and I think there was a fire across the way. And just from putting that fire out, they had to shut the damn road down for like 3 days because of the ice. It was nuts. But glad you got that problem fixed. I'm glad it happened in August, if it was going to happen. Maybe I'm sure
September.
Or September, rather. Yeah,
Whatever the hell it is.
When September comes. So at least it watered all your petunias for you.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll be getting a new driveway here soon. I would think, courtesy of the city of Carmel and Mayor Jim Brainerd.
Well, very, very, very kind of him. We just finished up with Matt Taylor appropriately. Your latest piece out, of course, on Anthony Richardson's. Don't forget, Musings of an Old Sports Writer from bobkravitz.substack.com. How about that? I got it memorized for the first time.
Dude, fantastic.
Dang, got it. I love it. Yeah, don't forget that. bobkravitz.substack.com.
You have a steel trap for a mind.
Yeah, like a mouse. But make sure you check that out. The content is often and it's good. So make sure you pull into that. Anthony, you've been following the Colts intently. We just got off with Matt Taylor, like I said, and something I noticed, and it doesn't matter if you're a gambler or not, but I just use this for reference. But the Colts are a freaking road favorite at Houston.
No way.
After.
I know it's true because I heard.
No. I'm sorry. They're a 1-point dog.
Oh, they're a dog? I thought they were a favorite.
No. They are a favorite. They're -1. They're -1 at Houston. Houston's getting a point at home.
Way.
And that's not even a coin toss to me. That's Vegas saying, yeah, I feel 2 points better about the Colts, because normally it's a 3-point home advantage.
Right. That surprises me, man.
Shocks me.
Now, Houston looked terrible in their opener. Their offensive line, poor C.J. Stroud was under siege, from what I understand. I obviously didn't see the game because I had another game to watch, but he did not look good. Well, I don't want to say he didn't look good. He couldn't look good because, like I say, he was under siege like Andrew Luck back in the day. And I thought Anthony Richardson looked very passable. He looked good. But no, I would certainly take just about any team in this league not named Arizona to beat the Colts at this point.
Well, Vegas is disagreeing with you on that one, and I understand why, because I saw the same thing. It's a lot of struggling teams right now around the league that are not in that situation. New England, not kind of there. What's going to happen with the Jets? What a sad. How did that suck? I mean, I'm not a Jets fan at all. I'm not anti-Jets, but they're like the Cubs of the NFL.
At least the Cubs won the World Series a couple of decades ago. These guys haven't won since '69. Yeah, I immediately texted my brother-in-law Doug, who's a Jersey guy and a huge Jets fan. I said, "Hey man, I need to interview you for my story on Jets fandom, because he is a nuts Jets fan." And he said, "No bleeping comment."
Well, the funny thing is, when I watch Monday Night Football, I only watch the Manning cast. I don't watch the regular broadcast. I have no interest in it. I love listening to those guys. But they had John McEnroe on, who had interviewed Aaron Rodgers prior to it, and they did an interview about it. And he had him believing. He said, he was all into New York. And they had him on the front half of the Manning cast. I wish they'd have had him on the second half. because at least he would have got to see the win. But they get him on, and he said that, they were talking about things, but he said, my wife has said, I can never say you cannot be serious again. Don't ever utter that phrase. He goes, but when Aaron Rodgers went down, he goes, you cannot be serious. And so, but I bet he said it one more time at the end of the game when they ran that damn punt back. That game was the biggest opening and closing shocker NFL game I've ever seen. But
it took you on an emotional ride, that's for sure. I mean, they say it's now Zach Wilson's team. I'll tell you what, I would kick the tires on Tom Brady, see what his situation is, because I know he's got.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. He's got partial ownership with the Las Vegas Raiders, so that could be a potential obstacle. But I'll tell you the guy they need to go after, Jacoby Brissett. He is a backup right now elsewhere. I forget what team.
I've heard that name before. That name sounds oddly familiar.
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett to me is the best option. Matt Ryan is done. Joe Flacco is done. All these guys that they're talking about are done. Okay, Jacoby Brissett still has good football in him, and I think he could lead the Jets to the playoffs. I think the Jets are that good, especially defensively.
What about Dustin Schutte?
Well, yeah, I don't think he could pass a physical.
I could not. I would break Aaron Rodgers' record for quickest injury in NFL history. It would take me one play to hurt, and that would just be from a handoff.
Well, I'd worry about you during the national anthem straining a hamstring or something. That'd be ugly.
Yeah, that would.
I think I'd be like that. The Little Giants. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but before the game start, or before they play that pickup game, the kid just starts limping. He's on the injured list. That would be me, just trying to get out of the game. Not going to be in uniform. I'm going to be in street clothes on the sideline.
You'll be like on the Jonathan Taylor pup list.
Yeah. Well, okay. So
the difference being you'll really be hurt.
I will really be hurt. Well, I wanted to ask this. Does Jonathan Taylor's situation, based on the Colts' running ability in that game against Jacksonville, or is it still the same because of the running back market?
Yeah, I just think that the Colts are dug in. I don't think that, if they haven't come across with an offer by now, they're not going to. So I think the ball is really in Taylor's court. What happens 3 games from now when he comes off the PUP list, because he's got to start thinking about playing. He's going to get fined. He may get suspended by the Colts if he refuses to show up and practice. So I think potentially this thing could get a whole lot uglier before it gets better. Now, I think the Colts are hoping that with the October 31st trade deadline, that teams will look at themselves in the mirror and say, you know what, we're just a running back away. Maybe the Miami Dolphins as an example.
Yeah.
They may say, we're pretty damn good. We have a chance to win a Super Bowl, and we're willing to overpay a little bit for a guy who's the quality of Jonathan Taylor. I think they're counting on that.
Well, are the Colts? Are the Colts in a situation where they don't think that Anthony Richardson's best football is going to match up with Jonathan Taylor's best football? Like that to me is the situation. They think that if they were a contender right now, I feel like this would not be an issue. The fact that they know that they're going to take some time, they probably think we're not going to pay a guy to get us yards so we can go 7-10.
Right. I mean, look, without Jonathan Taylor, they're a 3-win team. With Jonathan Taylor, maybe they're a 5-win team, 6-win team. I mean, winning is not the idea this year. I know you played to win the game, yada, yada, yada. Thank you, Herm Edwards. But I just don't think that. I think this entire season is about developing young Mr. Richardson. Unfortunately, they're putting even more pressure on him by making him play football with the likes of Zach Moss, Jake Funk, Evan Hull, people like that, Deion Jackson. So I just don't think winning football games is really paramount for this Colts team right now.
And I'm looking forward to the game this weekend to seeing if there's been the growth between week 1 and week 2. A lot of coaches say that's when you make a great deal of improvement. His first game, what did he learn? And we will certainly find out. We've got to take a break. I'm not sure if you have a few extra minutes when we come back to talk about IU or not, but Bob Kravitz with us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Another hour coming up after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market. If you've got a few minutes, great. If not, no big deal.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't have a long time. I gotta get this fucking this thing
driveway. All I can do is laugh.
It's gushing out there.
Let me tell you this: where I live, I was gone this summer to Florida because I swapped with.
Yeah, you told me that.
Okay, well, while he was here, the couple, last December he did this because it got down to negative whatever. He left a faucet on, but he also left a freaking wash rag in the sink and flooded from the top floor down.
Nice.
That was number one. That was the first time. Next door, this is, 2 levels here, but next door is place upstairs, place downstairs. And it flooded, it broke. There was no one there and the pipes burst. And so it flooded both of them, literally flooding them. Back in June, when I was gone, he was here again. He did the same thing. He flooded it again.
What a moron.
But
what a moron.
So had that going on. I can still smell the paint. It's fresh. And it's been months. Recruiting getting hot and heavy for Indiana. I know that's not something that you're following heavily right now.
Not so much. Not so much.
But it's just, they have no 2024 commits yet. I think that Liam McNeely is probably the closest to being that first commitment. He was here again for his second official visit over the weekend with 2 other guys from Montverde, that at least one of which Indiana is pushing hard, Derek Queen. And then Mike Woodson was in New York yesterday speaking at was it the New York Coaches Association or something like that. But he also met with Boogie Fland, who is a 5-star guard, who Kentucky Calipari also met with. So this is a head-to-head matchup with Kentucky. They had a head-to-head matchup with Kansas that they won and then kind of lost. Flory Badunga ended up going to Kansas. Everybody thought he was going to Duke.
Yeah.
But yada, yada, yada. And then IU's got a football game this weekend in Indianapolis.
I'll be there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Who's Purdue play this week? Syracuse. Is that game at Purdue?
No, is it?
Yeah.
Is it Syracuse? Oh, okay.
Yeah, at Purdue, yeah. I need to get up there.
Dino Babers is against Oilers. That's a night
Dino
game.
or Babers.
What?
Yep.
Because
What
his
about-
name is basically Dino.
What about
Say it differently.
him?
He's 2-0 against Purdue. He won when he was at Bowling Green, and he won last year at Syracuse.
All right, here we go, guys. To mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle here, Dustin, Schutte, and we're joined by the great Bob Kravitz from bobkravitz.substack.com. Make sure you go there, subscribe, sign up, get Bob's content on the Colts, the Pacers, and Indiana, Purdue, Notre Dame, whatever the story is. Bob goes, baby. He's there. It could be your neighbor. You never know. Not likely, but
No, not damn likely. My neighbor is from Azerbaijan and doesn't know if a football is stuffed or Yeah, I don't think I'll be writing about my neighbor unless he fixes my busted pipe.
Oh, he might. We have Fozan Masri, who is always checking us out from Amman, Jordan.
Nice.
So
nice.
Hey, got that going for us, which is nice. Before I get to the football and basketball for this weekend in college, I'm halfway through The Gambler, the book, man.
Is it good?
I've really enjoyed it. Everybody thinks it's got all Phil Mickelson stuff. I just got to the Phil Mickelson part, and I'm over halfway through the book. It's not going to be a big part of the book, but it's just, man, there's just this dude has led a life. Let me tell you,
led a life, yeah, and yeah, apparently he's not quite the fine gentleman that he's been portrayed to be. You know,
is that right?
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, he's let a couple of people out to dry, including the author of the book. Was it Walters? Is that the guy's name?
Billy Walters. Yeah.
Walters, yeah. So, but can you
now? What happened? What was the deal with the author?
Yeah, you know what? I'm not 100% sure, but the author is very upset at Phil because he.
At Phil.
At Phil, yeah. He's upset.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Billy Walters.
Oh no! I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. I haven't had my coffee yet. Been too busy worrying about my busted.
Oh,
pipe.
yeah, Billy Walters makes no bones about Phil Mickelson. He actually says that he's not being as harsh as he possibly could. But Phil absolutely caused him to go to prison.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Just because he didn't tell the damn truth.
Right. Yeah. Nice guy.
It's crazy, but it is worth the read. Absolutely. But this weekend, college football, of course, Indianapolis, you'll be there as they take on Louisville, a game. They're a 10-point underdog in. And that may be accurate because people haven't seen enough of Indiana yet. Their defense is pretty solid. Offense looks like it could be okay, but you just don't know yet. You've got a quarterback who's not tested, who has not been tested really at all. Ohio State doesn't count. He didn't get to play nearly as much in that game. He plays against the JV team the next week and destroys them. This week it's going to be, for real. I think he's capable of it. He has some good pieces around him. It's going to come down to play calling, Indiana doing their job on offense, not making stupid mistakes and penalties.
Yeah, no, it's pretty much the same way for them every week. The question I have is with Taven, are they going to be more run centric? I know in that opening game, they were super conservative. They didn't do anything. They were just trying to keep it close. I think this is the game that will tell us what Indiana is all about.
Absolutely.
I think this is the game that is going to be the most telling, and it will show us where they're headed this season.
Oh, there's no doubt, Dustin, that I've said this for weeks. This is the game that determines, to me, Indiana's season. And Dustin disagrees with me, but I think that they have to win this game. It's not that they don't have the chances afterwards, but their chances are much more minimized if they do not win this game, because now you've won one. Well, you've already lost one of your non-con games. You'll end up going 2-1 with those, but that's not good enough because you still have to now beat 5 Big Ten teams, or 4, I guess, just to become bowl eligible. If you only get those 2 wins, but those
Dustin.
4 wins.
Can't hear you, Dustin.
You're muted. Dustin's muted, thank goodness, but we cannot hear you, brother. But we keep trying, and as soon as we hear you, we'll let you know. But
can you hear me now?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Unfortunately,
Weird.
yes.
Yeah, That was done. I think John did that on purpose. Well, I think even if they lose to Louisville, they're going to be 2-2 on September 23rd because they're going to beat Akron. And then you look at the schedule. Let's throw out and say they're going to lose to Michigan and Penn State. So that puts them at Rutgers, Maryland, Illinois. Michigan State's going through a coaching change. Purdue hasn't looked great.
Yeah, but
still
all those games are later. All those
wins.
games are later in the season. All those teams are going to continue to get better. So you're not going to catch those teams then the way they are now. Of course, Indiana will get better too, but I just think it's important to win this game for a lot of different reasons. Perception. Indiana just bought their way out of the series. So there's that to deal with, but it's just the confidence that they would get by winning a game, that they're not supposed to win, number one, and to show that they are legit. At the very least, they have got to make this a close game.
I agree. I'm sorry. I was grabbing my Diet Coke.
That's
Diet Coke. It's for winners.
Closers, baby.
Yeah,
I got an empty coffee cup.
I know.
See my Chad Powers, baby. Chad Powers.
Very nice. Yeah,
Chad Powers.
I think. Look, I mean, I agree with Dustin to a degree. I just think this is a game that's gonna. It may not determine their game, but it may determine the trajectory of their season. I don't know. Who the hell knows? I mean, it's just it's a game they can win. I'm sure they'd love to beat Braum. I thought Louisville looked pretty good against. I think they start open against Georgia Tech, right?
Yep.
Yes.
I watched that game.
They allowed a bunch, like 28 points in the second quarter, but they were managed to come back and win somehow.
Right.
So that's another thing. They were tested early, had to come back in the second half. So they've already been tested mentally. Then they go out and destroy a Murray State team like Indiana went out and destroyed Indiana State. And Indiana was tested early, but defensively that's good, but offensively it was too split. I would rather have seen the starting quarterback in this game have had all the snaps, especially since he's a rookie. But it is what it is. Indiana does have some really nice pieces on offense, Bob. I mean, of course, it starts with Jalen Lucas, who, if they use him properly, like getting him outside the tackle, getting him out and getting the ball out in space, man, the dude's dangerous. That's all there is to it. You just don't know what's going to happen. And he was very elusive. I like to watch him run because he's got this little stop and just go thing. And buddy, if you stop with him, you're toast.
Yeah, he's a special athlete. I'm trying to think back to the last time Indiana had a guy like him. Maybe you guys know.
Tevin Coleman, probably.
What's that?
Tevin Coleman.
Tevin Coleman was a bad man. Every time he touched the ball, he led the nation in touchdown runs of over 80 yards, 70 yards, 60 yards, 50 yards, and everything that year. That dude was crazy.
By the way, thank God Indiana got him before the transfer portal era, because he'd have been gone in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, absolutely. On the basketball side of things, Bob, I know that it's not at the top of your list right now, but lots of recruiting going on. The coaches are out visiting. I mentioned that Mike Woodson and John Calipari were both in New York, stepping up New York to speak at a New York coaches deal, and it's where Boogie Fland, who is a 5-star, the top point guard in the country, goes to school. It's kind of down between Indiana and Kentucky, and that's been a while since those two have really battled for a top recruit. Indiana is getting into these battles. They've been in them with Kansas, and they've been up here. They're in with all of these elite players, and they've all got visits. They just had a weekend where Liam McNeely, Derek Queen, both 5-stars from Montverde were in, along with their teammate Curtis Gibbons. But those are two priorities, especially Liam McNeely. And I think he's going to be the first domino to fall for Indiana. And with 0 recruits right now, do you think that kind of loosens up?
Yeah. Oh,
kind of opens the thing up?
Absolutely. I'll be honest with you. When they hired Woody, I thought, how much energy is he going to have for recruiting? I mean, that was my big fear. There's no question he knows how to coach. He knows how to inspire. He knows how to do all those things. But I was really curious because we're the same age. We went to school at the same time at IU, and how much will he really be into the recruiting piece of this? And man, he's done a really nice job. I mean, he's in on all the elite players. Now, the bottom line is you got to land these guys because it's a very thin line between having a great recruiting class and having zero.
Yeah, I think, Dustin, to me, without question, they have to land two of these high-profile players at a minimum because they've had a ton of them in. I mean, it's like 8 of the top 50 players have been in and they're in on. So I think they have to land 2 of them to show that they are a force in the recruiting field. Otherwise, hell, everybody's getting one. Rutgers has a top-ranked recruiting class right now, so you've got to land them.
Well, it's a more level playing. Well, I don't know if it's, but other schools have more opportunities because you can go all in on one guy and potentially get him an NIL deal that makes it attractive for him to go there, right? And then the transfer portal, obviously, if a kid's not fitting in or not playing well, you can go out and add to your roster that way too. But I think if Indiana wants to get back to where they're a legitimate contender for a Big Ten championship every single season and a legitimate for every single season, they've got to land some of these kids too. They've done a great job. Like the first piece is getting them through the door and getting them on campus, getting them, acquainted with Indiana. And we talked about Archie Miller did not do a good job about going outside the state, but I think that if Indiana, it is the next piece. If you want to live up to and get Indiana picture, which I do think they're getting back into that conversation. You do have to start landing some of these players, and then you got to develop them. I mean, it's early in Mike Woodson's tenure. We're going to see what this offense looks like without Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson kind of being the center points. It's going to be interesting, but they've got to land some more elite talent.
Hey,
I'll disagree with you. What's that, Bob?
No, I was gonna. What's going on with Xavier Johnson? Did he get? I thought maybe.
Oh, he's back. He's back. Good to go. He's back at 100%. What I was going to say is I'm going to disagree with Dustin, but I forgot what I was disagreeing with. What did you say? What did you say?
What did I said a lot of things. I always say a lot
what
of
did
things.
What did you start with?
They got to land a couple of these guys to compete for a Big Ten.
I know what I was going to ask. How important, Bob? Oh, I know. It's no longer early in Woody's career, and because college basketball, especially with the portal, has shrunk. You're going into year 3 now, and it's
yes.
People are expecting that. But I was going to ask Bob, what do you think going into year 3? Where does Indiana needs to be making the second round of the tournament? They should have made it last year, to be honest with you. That should have happened last season. They got pumped by a Miami team. And what's that?
Because they got to you mean the second weekend? Because they got to the second round.
Second weekend. They've got to get to the second weekend. Winning a first game is, who cares? You're beating Lehigh. Or losing to who did Purdue lose to?
Fairleigh Dickinson. Fairleigh Dickinson.
Yeah. There you go. But you've got to get to the second weekend and have a shot to go further than that now. I mean, that's not just for the fans. That's for landing these players.
Right. I mean, this is a really key time. I mean, they've got to take that next step. And it's definitely time, and he's got to bring in the kinds of players who can get them there. We hear good things about Mbako and the other kid they brought in, but let's see where they go.
Absolutely. That chime you heard means our time is up with Bob. He's got to go, but we greatly appreciate him. Make sure you reach out to bobkravitz.substack.com for all of his content. It is great. I am a subscriber. I don't know my subscriber number like JD Campbell does. How do I find out my subscriber number? Because I jumped on.
I know.
I was like, how the hell does he know what his subscriber number is? I go, I just subscribed.
Well, that's all you need to know. You just go in your email every day or every couple of days, and there it is. My music.
You don't have to. Don't worry, it's there. Trust me.
All right, good deal.
Appreciate you, buddy. Bob Kravitz.
See you, Dustin.
BobKravitz.substack.com. We've got Chris Denari coming up next. We'll be back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Chris Denari, how are you, sir?
What's up, guys? How are you?
How have you been?
Oh, I had a great week last week. Great vacation.
Did you go up north?
That's good to hear.
No, we were Pawleys Island.
That's right. That's right. I have a friend that actually. Oh, how far is that from Charleston? I know that's closer to Myrtle Beach, but how far is it to Charleston?
It's probably hour and a half, maybe.
I got a friend of mine that lives here. Well, you might know him. Brett Hutton used to work for Learfield.
Oh, I know the name. Yeah.
He's good friends with Kit Klingelhofer, but
okay, yeah,
building a house down there. Has one here as well.
Is Kit still Bloomington?
Is he still what?
Bloomington? Kit?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Oh yeah. His grandson is a preferred walk-on for the IU football team.
Oh, really? I was trying to think, how old is Kit?
Kit's like 72, I'm thinking. But
okay,
he's like Don Fisher. I don't know what the hell. I don't know what in the hell that group of guys that were at IU at that time were given by the IU medical staff. But whatever it was, it stunted their aging process.
Right.
Because if you see Don Fisher, if you see Kit Klingelhofer, and then somebody said, yeah, that dude's 72, you're like, what?
Yeah.
Because both of them can kick your ass on the golf course. And I hope that I look and feel and act that spry at that age.
I agree. What is JD? I mean, he's gone. I know from IU. He retired.
He retired. He comes on with us now.
Oh, okay. Does he?
Hey, Brian from Orleans. We appreciate you, brother.
And
well, what? Oh, St. Elmo's. I was going to say, what I'll take him to Chop Shop instead. How's that?
I'm a proud Bob Kravitz subscriber.
I am as well.
There you go.
What Kit was, not Kit, but JD was bragging that he was like subscriber 03. And I'm like, how the hell do you know your subscriber number?
Oh,
here we go, guys.
Need to make a gourmet meal at home or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. It's September 14th from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, high atop the 18th fairway. Please welcome aboard the man from the Pacers, Chris Denari, fresh off of a well-earned vacation down on the East Coast. Nice little spot. Did you get the one thing I always want to do and then forget and scramble to do is get to some seafood. Did you have plenty of seafood, or are you like our friend Matt Taylor, who refuses to eat anything from the ocean?
Oh no, I'm going to eat seafood. We had a wonderful time. We had a week. We had a great house. We had a pool. We were steps away from the beach. So we did a lot of cooking in our kitchen, but we did go out. There's a place called Frank's on Pawleys Island. That's a fabulous place. We went there one night. So yeah, we had a lot of fun. It was the first time that all 9 of us have been together. That's my wife and I, our 3 sons, 2 daughter-in-laws, and 2 grandsons. So we had a great time. In fact, my wife is still down in South Carolina. She's going to be down there until the end of October watching our 2-month-old grandson. So it's just me and the 2 dogs here as I get ready for my 18th NBA season. So I'm planning on flying down to see my son, daughter-in-law, grandson, my wife, probably October 7th. The Pacers have 2 preseason road games that we will not do on TV. So I'll try to get away for 3 or 4 days. And I don't think I'm going to – my wife is not going to be back here at home until like Halloween. So she is – wow. Yeah, I'm like Bachelor again. It's like back in my days when I worked Tri-WY Radio in Columbus. You know, here was my meal every day, and it's probably what I'm doing. Well, now though, I go out. When I was a 22-year-old living in Columbus, Indiana, my first job, every day I swear I had a ham sandwich, Lay's potato chips, and cottage cheese. I mean, that was it. I mean, now it's like, okay, what fast food do I want today? Where do I want to go to Culver's? Do I want to go to Panera? Do I want to go to Chick-fil-A? So,
or you can, you're in Indianapolis, so I can't, if you were in Bloomington, I would recommend a host of places.
Oh yeah, no question.
But
since we're combining 2 of my favorite things, basketball and restaurant, I wanted to tell Chris may already know about this, but when I lived in Orlando, there is a great place. So I don't know how much time you get to go explore things when you're on the road. Probably depends on the schedule and things like that. But if you get a chance when you are in Orlando, because you're also a golf fan, Vine's Grill and Wine Bar in I think it's actually located in the Fountains of. It is a fantastic steakhouse.
Okay.
And they even got an Arnold Palmer room.
Okay.
And
I'm looking at my calendar, my schedule. I go to Orlando 1 time this year. And I will be there on Saturday, March the 9th, and Sunday, March the 10th. Sounds like a good place the night before. That's right around conference tournament time, I think. So would that be a good place to go watch games?
You know what? Actually, so it's kind of like separated. It would be, imagine if you combine St. Elmo's Steakhouse with Harry and Izzy's. So like one side of St. Elmo's, one side of, or maybe even just St. Elmo's, because there's one side of it where it's just the TVs, there's nothing, but there is like just around the corner a bar area where they got a couple different TVs. It's a really good place. It's a really fun place. But that was one of my favorite places to go. I try to treat myself to a nice steak once a year. And when I lived in Orlando, that is always where I would hit up. So
all right, that sounds good.
If you get time, I would check that out.
I will make a note of that. That will be on my docket. That is during the month of March when the Pacers play 10 of 15 games on the road. So I will be a road warrior during that month.
You will be.
Yeah.
And the other thing is probably around that time. I'd have to look at the schedule, but usually the Arnold Palmer Invitational is that. I mean, I'm sure you're not going to have time to go to that, but that's usually when that is, that second weekend in March.
Yeah, no, you're right. By the way, I'll be watching golf today. PGA Tour resumes their fall, and the Reds have won 3 in a row and are back in the final wild card slot.
I'm glad you brought that up because I always forget to look at that. And sorry, are they leading that final spot right now?
They are tied with the Diamondbacks for the third and final wild card spot. It's Phillies, Cubs, Reds, but the Reds have the season series against the Diamondbacks. But
So, yeah, that's
still 15 games left, though, I think. 14 or 15 games left. So, Reds.
Yeah, the Reds have a favorable schedule, but every time I look up, it seems like, the Reds lose to the Cardinals. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But they beat Detroit at least, or is it Detroit, I think?
Yeah, they've got another game with Detroit today, and then they go to New York to play the Mets. And then next week they play Minnesota, which Minnesota's leading the AL Central. I think what listening to Sadak last night, John Sadak, who I love as the Reds play-by-play guy, the 3 games that they play with the Twins are the only games against a winning team. But as you said, Jim, last week they lost 2 or 3 to the Cardinals, so that wasn't so good.
Yeah, it hasn't mattered. Here's the wild thing. I've said this a couple times. Obviously, the National League Central is the second. One would have called it the second weakest division in baseball besides the American League Central.
Yeah,
but the National League Central is poised and in position to put 3 teams into the damn playoffs.
That's true.
How does that happen? How does it work that way? I'm sitting here looking at these, and I'm like, that does not make sense.
No, and the one thing, at least this year, it's a balanced schedule, so it's not like all those Central Division teams have beaten up on each other. Remember when you play like 19 games against your own division team, but now they've gone to more of a balanced schedule. So at least they've beaten other teams, the Brewers and the Cubs and the Reds. That's fascinating. You're right. I mean, you look at the NL East, how strong it is. Braves, Phillies. I mean, the Mets have been a disappointment. Here's the thing. No matter what happens for all of us who are Reds fans, we are talking about potential playoff baseball in September. Last year, I think you just wrote off the season in June. So that's a positive. No matter what happens, I've been highly entertained this summer. They've got a good young team, a good young roster that I think that they can make some noise over the next few years. But right now, Dylan's Atlanta Braves or Dustin's Atlanta Braves. I'm looking at Dylan's Sinn. Dustin's Atlanta Braves are one of the best teams in Major League Baseball.
Oh, don't worry. We've got a host of people that come on that are stinking Braves fans. Zach Osterman, J.D. Campbell. I'm like, oh, yeah, great.
Well, I always preface this, and I always tell people this, that I will admit that I've been a bit of a bandwagon Braves fan, and that's not that I only cheer for them when they're good. It's when I moved to Atlanta, I didn't
When
have
are
any
they not
friends. I
good?
didn't know anybody.
When are the Braves not good?
I'm just saying I'm not that kind of bandwagon. To Atlanta, it was the easiest way to kind of assimilate myself to everybody around me. It gave me something to talk about, check out. And I'm not like, I don't live or die with the Braves, but I've always been a big baseball fan, never really had a team. And it is just such part of the culture when you live in that Atlanta metro area that it just becomes contagious. That I have not been, a diehard Braves fan. I've kind of paid attention to them my whole life because of the Turner affiliation, always being on national TV. But they're a fun team to watch. Like if people just like baseball, just put on the Braves because it is what their lineup can do. They had 8 All-Stars this year. They're setting Acuna is probably the MVP of the league. They're just, if you like baseball, they're a fun team to watch.
No, they are. Dustin, I was going to ask you this question, because we know how strong and powerful football is, especially the NFL. But in Atlanta, where are you have the Falcons and the Braves. Are the Braves number 1 in Atlanta over the NFL?
I think so.
They have to be because the Falcons just hasn't had the success other than that unbelievable choke job in the Super Bowl.
I mean, I would go. Everybody's wearing Braves gear everywhere you go. The World Series was one of the So I think downtown Indianapolis in the summer playoffs, and they have a chance. It gives off one of the coolest vibes, You can, if you go to games there and you're downtown Indy, it is just an awesome atmosphere all around Gainbridge Fieldhouse. In Atlanta, it's the same thing, but it spreads out. It's like across the state. It is just kind of a buzz. Everybody's wearing Braves gear. It is so fun. And that's why, like I said, I think the Braves are number one. I think Georgia football probably reigns superior across the state and still in Atlanta. But in terms of professional sports, it's definitely the Braves, the Falcons. Steep decline then to the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. There are not a lot of Hawks fans in Atlanta, but that's why that's why I became a Braves fan, because everywhere you go, everybody's watching the Braves game. Braves. It is just a contagious atmosphere.
Well, and I think one of the things, Jim, years ago when we were, growing up, or, we're relatively the same age, is you had TBS with the Braves, you had WGN with the Cubs, and those two teams. Now the Braves, when you think about Smoltz and Glavine and all that, they were much better than the Cubs. But there was still a stretch there where I don't think the Braves were that good, but we didn't have all the games on television that we have now. And so you watch the Braves or the Cubs, right? And
Right.
It didn't really matter if they won or not. You wanted to watch, you got to watch live baseball on TV.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, first of all, Ted Turner was a freaking genius. For what he did with not just TBS, but CNN. I mean, how long was and is CNN around the world viewed as, you go back, I watch a lot of historical stuff, and you'll see all these terrorists. It must be on CNN, it's so, man, he was ahead of the curve on that, and it gave the Braves a gigantic fan base too, because they started winning, man, and they didn't stop. But one of the things I was gonna say, getting back to looking at the standings, even from a basketball standpoint, when you look at these standings, the run differential, it'd be like the scoring differential in basketball, but the run differential has blown my mind, because almost all season that National League Central had one team that was on the plus side, and it was always Chicago, even when they were in third and fourth. There's still a plus 93 for the season. Now Milwaukee is finally 48 games to the plus side. The Reds still under. But as you look around the league, other leaders, the Baltimore Orioles, they're plus 120. Tampa's plus 198. But the Houston Astros are plus 121. Even the Dodgers plus 173. Then you go to Atlanta. They are plus 239. They are just destroying the ball, scoring runs, winning games, 96 wins. Nobody is close to that. Baltimore is 5 games back of them. But I've seen that happen before. I remember way back when they had the guys that you just mentioned, Smoltz and Glavine and all those guys. And I've seen them lose when I didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it. I mean, the Reds are, as you said, minus run differential. I think they have 45 come from behind wins. So, I mean, it tells you.
Most in the majors, too.
Yeah, so it tells you they've given up a lot of runs. Their pitching staff has given up a lot of runs. They win a lot of games, by a run or 2 runs, and then they lose a lot of games by a big margin. So that's how that run differential gets away. But I'll give them a lot of credit. I mean, they needed to win these last 2 games against Detroit, and they eked out a pair of one-run games. And so we'll see what happens down the stretch. Like I said, I'm very encouraged. I told you I was, back in June, I was able to go see the Reds and the Braves and got to talk to Brandon Gaudin, who's the new voice of the Braves, but was very encouraged watching the Reds. I've watched more Reds games this summer. I think Matt Taylor probably has done the same. I mean, it's amazing in Indianapolis when you look at a lot of the media people, Matt Taylor, me, Jake Query, JMV. I mean, Greg Rakestraw, all these guys in Indy, we're all Reds fans because that's who we grew up watching. So we're all excited that, finally after, it's been a long number of years, They chased a playoff spot a few years ago with their veteran team, but this has been fun, and hopefully it's a sign of things to come.
Absolutely.
I know we got to let it. I know.
Go ahead, Dustin.
I was just going to ask somewhat of a Pacers-related question, but not really, before we let Chris go. And that is, the thing I did not realize, Unity Plaza in Indianapolis, I haven't been down there to Gainbridge Fieldhouse. I haven't checked it out yet. But I will be ice skating. Will Chris Denari be ice skating when the winter rolls around?
Oh, I will be coming to watch ice skating. You will have to do that.
Dustin, you will have to hold me up. The last time I went ice skating, let's see, my oldest son is 33. He was probably 5. We were at Pan American Plaza, downtown Indianapolis, and I hugged the wall the whole time. So
that sounds like me. That's the last time I roller skated. I remember my daughter when she was young, and I used to love roller skating, but I was like, thank God it was a carpeted wall because I was on that baby. I mean, I got some rug burns.
I have never been, so I thought embarrass myself than in a very public space in downtown Indianapolis around Christmas time.
Okay. Well, if you're going to embarrass yourself, then maybe I'll go out there and join you. But let me tell you, Bicentennial Unity Plaza is an amazing piece of property right next to Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And as you said, I think about those years, especially 2012, 13, 14, Racers, Pacers during the month of May, everybody excited. And I can tell you, I can't wait for the Pacers to be back in the playoffs playing in April and May, and now having Bicentennial Unity Plaza where everybody can gather before, during, after the game. I'm really excited. It's funny because my calendar is starting to get full now from all the other events that I do with Pacer Sports and Entertainment, talking to this group, talking to that group, talking to our part-time employees, doing Q&As with Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan. I'm excited. I mean, it's still about 3 weeks away from the opening of training camp, and our first telecast will be October the 16th, a preseason game on a Monday night. So we're still a little bit more than a month away, but I can tell you I'm getting really excited. I think it's going to be a fantastic Pacer season. Tyrese Halliburton, I think, is poised. He played really well
this summer in the
I think he's poised to take another step and really be a leader for this team. And just when you're around them, I mean, their goal is they want to get to the playoffs. I mean, it's been too long that the Pacers franchise has not been to the playoffs. So really excited to see what happens when the season starts here shortly.
Chris Denari from the Pacers. I can't thank you enough as always, buddy. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend.
All right. I look forward to it. And Jim, you come down too. We'll make it we'll ice skate at Bicentennial.
Yes,
I'll do it. I've done it one time in my life, and I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, I would have the side rails. Like they have bowling for the kids.
Yes.
I need those bumper rails, baby.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Chris Denari. Appreciate you, buddy.
All right, thanks,
we've
guys.
got lots more coming up next. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette joins us. We're back with that right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
All right, guys.
Appreciate you, sir.
All right, see you, Dustin.
Take care, Chris.
All right, take care.
Hey, guys, how are you?
Bam.
How's it going, brother?
Good. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
You too. Oh, man. Why are people doing this?
Where's your football assignment this week, Dylan?
I'm going to be at IU and at Purdue, actually, which is funny.
Dear God.
Yeah, it works out.
Well, it's very easy because Indiana has a noon game in Indianapolis, and what's Lafayette? An hour and a half?
Exactly, and Purdue's at 7:30, so there's plenty of time in between. Yeah.
Okay, but time out.
Cruising. How much money do you make on mileage a year?
A lot.
I just want to say that you say it's like the travel portion is easy, but Dylan and give analysis and opinion and all that. It ain't like he's just going from one game to another.
Yeah, no, but that's the part I enjoy though. So I don't worry about that. Like that's what I'm there for. That's what I like doing. So
well, I know, but it's not. I don't think it's easy.
Sure, no, you're absolutely right. There are times that it's not. Absolutely. Yeah, but I'm really interested in both of the games on Saturday. I still don't think we know much about either of these teams, and I'm kind of curious to figure it out because I think we're going to learn a lot on Saturday.
I agree.
As do I.
The disrespect continues to run hot. Jay Norvell, head coach of Colorado State. I sat down with ESPN today. I took my hat off and I took my glasses off. And I said, when I talk to grown-ups, I take my hat and glasses off. That's what my mother taught me.
Who you talk about?
Dear God. I just said Jay Norvell, the head coach at Colorado State.
He's taking a shot. He's taking a shot at Dion because they're playing Colorado this week.
Can we?
I just heard Colorado. I was like, what is he, an assistant? Oh,
yeah. No,
how stupid is that? I mean, why do you want to do that? Because let me tell you, you're already a 25-point underdog. You may lose by 50 now. They want to get those Shedeur Sanders Eisman numbers up.
Oh man, I guess the idea is that if Dion's being a character like that and you're the in-state rival, you have to say something.
Yeah. All right, here we go, guys.
Dion rounds that you like for just $299. That's better than a birdie. But you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by our good friends from Bubba's 33, both in Clarksville and Evansville, right off of I-65 in Clarksville and right off of I-69 in the Lloyd, down in Evansville. 51 TVs in there, baby. Pizza, burgers, beer, everything made fresh daily. Great place to catch the IU games. Great place to talk to Dylan Sinn is right here from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. How are the Tin Caps doing in the playoffs? I saw they made the playoffs.
They did.
Playoffs.
It's a best of three. It's a best of three series in the Eastern Division Championship, and they won Game 1 at home on Tuesday. Game 2 is tonight in Midland, Michigan. They have a chance to go to the Midwest League Championship Series. So very excited for that. I will be there in Midland for those games.
Dude, I would love to have the money you're making just on mileage. In the break we were talking about, he's going to be at the Indiana game, which fortunately is in Indianapolis, which makes a short drive up to West Lafayette. But the games are separated far enough with the noon game for Indiana and Louisville and a 7:30 tilt for the Boilermakers and Syracuse Orangemen. These both should be good games, but Syracuse is not exactly a bad team.
No, they're not. They played a terrific game against Purdue last year that, if everyone remembers, Syracuse won at the very end after kind of a comedy of errors from Purdue in terms of like 5 penalties on one play. The big issue for Syracuse is that their big receiver, Aronde Gadsden, quite frankly, one of the best receivers in the ACC. He's very, very good. He left their game against West Michigan last week on the second series of the game and didn't return. And it's unclear whether he's going to be able to play against Purdue. Coach Dino Babers said yesterday that he was still unsure. It was kind of up in the air. So that could be a huge loss for them if he's not able to go. And on the Purdue side, Purdue seems like they might be getting all Big Ten center Gus Hartwig back from his torn ACL that he suffered at the end of last season. Hasn't played yet this year. He's on the depth chart this week for the first time. He's listed as the first-string center. So that could be a huge boost for the Boilermakers as well. So those are two things that could really swing this game.
So we talked in the break, Dylan, about how we don't know a lot about either team in terms of Purdue, and I would argue probably know a little bit more about Purdue given their opponents. I feel like they're a little bit more Virginia Tech and Fresno State are probably a little bit more comparable. Whereas earlier in the show, I mentioned on the Indiana side, you go from playing a top 5, top 10 team in Ohio State to you play a really bad FCS team. So they played teams on both. To me, I think the Indiana game was a little bit. I think the Purdue-Syracuse game, I feel like it might be more entertaining, but I feel like we might learn more about Indiana in the Indiana-Louisville game.
I could absolutely see that. I think the thing with Purdue, and yeah, we've seen them play against two pretty good opponents so far, but I do think that defense is adjusting as the season goes on. It's going to take a little bit for that Ryan Walters defense to really take hold. And he said as much after that first game against Fresno State. He said it wasn't what he wanted to see on the defensive end. And then after the game against Virginia Tech, they give up 17 points in the second quarter. They go in at halftime. They make some adjustments. And they come out and they shut out Virginia Tech in the second half. They give up 11 rushing yards in that game. I think it was kind of closer to what they want to see on defense. And I think so. It's a question of, was that a function of Virginia Tech being a poor offensive team, which is a possibility. Virginia Tech is not a good team. Or is it more of Purdue is improving as the season goes on, and we could see even more improvement this week? I do think the one thing we know about Indiana so far, and there is one thing we know definitively about Indiana, is that defense is salty. I don't know if it's great. I don't know if it's elite. I think it's salty. I think that they have players on that defense who can play, which is more, quite frankly, than we thought there might be going into the season. I thought Andre Carter was going to be a good player, and I thought basically everyone else, maybe Aaron Casey, and that's about it, was a question mark. And I think a lot of those question marks have ended up being having very positive answers. So I think that's one thing we do know about Indiana, but the offense to me is a black box. I don't think we know anything about what this offense can be yet.
And that could be a good thing, though, for them going into the game with Louisville. No doubt that they're going to be studying whatever they were able to study mostly from last week, because I don't think they're going to get much from the Ohio State game. David didn't play nearly as much, and the play calling was nothing. So they're going to have to prepare for the option. They're going to have to prepare for Indiana getting the ball out to guys out in space, running backs out of the backfield, to covering these receivers. You've got Omar Cooper, who stepped up, and Cam Camper. We'll see what his situation is, but they have good pieces. I haven't even mentioned Jalen Lucas yet. Josh Henderson in the backfield, but Jalen Lucas, man, that dude can make an impact in a moment. And that's the key. Now, does he? We don't know. We'll happen to see that. But the thing is, it can happen. And he can do it in multiple ways, not just from the backfield, out in the flats, or returning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I've said it since before the season started. I think the coaches agree with me. This Indiana team has the skill talent on offense to be a good team. It was a question of whether the offensive line came together and whether the quarterback could be competent, right? I think the offensive line has come together relatively well. I don't think it's perfect, but I think Bob Bostad has done a terrific job in one offseason of getting these guys to just kind of be good enough to keep Indiana in games. It's not, the offensive line is not going to lose Indiana games this year the way it did last year, I don't think. Now, it doesn't mean Indiana is going to win every game, but it means the offensive line is not going to be the reason they lose most weeks. And so that puts it on Taven Jackson, right? Can you be just good enough to get the ball to those guys in space, to make good decisions, to not turn the ball over, and to give your defense a chance to keep you in games? I think he can do that. I think we saw him make some very good throws against Indiana State. He's not the most accurate passer yet. He's a work in progress on that front. He missed some makeable throws, but there's some arm talent there. There's maturity there. There's athleticism there. And
I saw a lot of poise.
I did too. The first start of his collegiate career, he goes out and leads 3 straight touchdown drives. Now, one of those, Brendan Sorsby helped him with a big gain, right? But mostly it was Taven Jackson leading Indiana up and down the field and doing what he needed to do. Now,
and the best throw he made should have been a touchdown. I think that was a horrible call on the downfield, the lineman downfield.
Yeah.
But that would have been a touchdotion. Because I watched that, he rolled over that receiver.
Yeah. It was an NFL throw. That was it. Like we kind of made fun of Walt Bell for saying that both those guys have futures in the NFL and whatnot, but that was NFL throw. It was right on the money to a receiver who had a step and who needed to be able to get the ball out in front of him so he could make a play. And it was right where it needed to be, 50 yards down the field. So really good play by Taven. I do worry about Cam Camper, like you said. He got hurt against Indiana State. EJ Williams got hurt against Indiana State. Those are two of Indiana's best receivers. They have depth at that position, but you don't want two of your best to be out for one of your first games that your quarterback is starting. That would be a significant loss, even with Omar Cooper stepping up. So they would like to have Cam Camper in the lineup, absolutely. EJ Williams, too, although that seems more of a long shot.
Because what I've noticed through the first two games, or at least what I think I've noticed, is that because the offensive line, and I think we'll learn a little bit more. I think it is better than last season. By how much, I don't know yet. But it seems like I've mentioned this on other podcasts and radio shows too, and I just feel like this is more of the Walt Bell we saw where just give me an offensive line that can hold their blocks for a little bit longer, and I can get more creative with the playbook. I feel like Walt Bell, as an offensive coordinator, look, at Maryland, he knew that they weren't going to really out-athlete anybody. They had to get creative with their offensive play calls, and I think he understands that too. That doesn't mean Indiana doesn't have some athletes, but top to bottom roster-wise, they're not gonna be able to. So he's got to get creative. I feel like he's more comfortable with his playbook and implementing new plays on a weekly basis, as opposed to where it stood last year because they just couldn't block anybody.
No, I think you're exactly right. I think what we saw against against Ohio State with some of the really conservative play calling was Walt Bell not being sure how it was going to go, right? You think that the offensive line's improved. You bring a new offensive line coach. You get a few guys back from injury. You think it's going to be better, but you're not sure, especially against what, quite frankly, might be the best or second best defensive front in the country. There is a lot of talent on that Ohio State defensive line. And so he wasn't sure how it was going to go. Now, his mistake against Ohio State was once he realized that the line wasn't a complete sieve, that they were holding up well enough, he didn't get aggressive. Right, he didn't try some things that he even admitted it himself. He played pitter-pat for too long. He did. In the second half, there were chances for Indiana to go down and maybe make that a game. You score once, you get within 17-10 or something like that, and you feel like you're in a game. And Indiana, they never really opened up the playbook to do that. But I understood in the first half why you didn't, because you just weren't sure. And so it was good to see them kind of reopen things up against Indiana State.
The funny thing is I'm already thinking how good the bucket game is going to be this year. Yeah. Because normally that's not something that I think about, especially this early, but I'm like, man, these teams are kind of at the same place in different ways, but at the same place. And I'm like, man, it is going to be wild. They may be at the same place at the end of the season, and it could be a freaking free-for-all.
It's starting to feel like in the first 2 years that Tom Allen and Jeff Brom were on the job together, 2017 and 2018, both of those teams went into the bowl game 5-6, and the winner went to a bowl game. Now, Purdue won both of those, but they were close both years. It's starting to feel like one of those years where the winner of that game gets bowl eligible. That seems like where we're headed.
Before I forget, hold on, Dustin. Before I forget, this is important. Really, really important. And I want to remind everybody, make sure you go to ESPN, the fantasy, and do the college picks. Our friend Dylan Sinn does it. But Dylan, have you checked your picks?
I'm 11 of 20. It hasn't been great. But
okay. My bad. I saw 11-9. You're 11 of 20. Yeah, you're 11 and 9.
Yeah.
How in the hell are you 11-9, man?
I mean,
he's stuttering now, boy.
I'm trying to remember the ones that I picked wrong. I mean, I picked Texas Tech over Wyoming. That was a mistake. I picked some upsets every week, and none of the upsets have come through yet. I picked.
You must have got different ones than I got. I don't remember having Texas Wyoming because I would have picked
Texas Tech Wyoming the first week.
I still would have taken Texas Tech.
That's the thing, and Wyoming upset them. So I lost that one. I lost. I picked Purdue the first week, and they lost to Fresno State. I picked.
That was one of my losses.
Yeah, I picked UTSA over Houston that first week, and it turns out that Frank Harris is still struggling from his offseason, almost career-ending injury. So, yeah, we're working back. I went 7 for 10 last week, so it was a rough first week.
You're back, baby. You're back, though, but we appreciate you. Everybody go to ESPN, go to the fantasy tab, go down to College Pick'em, and join the ISB group if you have not already. The password is what, John?
You asked me the wrong time. I have no idea. I don't have it in front of me.
Well, we'll send it out. Dylan, thank you, sir. We appreciate you so much. We will see you on the top of the Sears Tower Saturday at Lucas Oil Stadium. Dustin, I wish you would have made it out to the game could have made it out to the game Saturday. It would have been good, but we will try to maybe try to hook up. And can I thank John for keeping us between the white lines? And most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. Big thanks to Matt Taylor, Bob Kravitz, Dylan Sinn, and Chris Denari. Great day. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.